Awesome. That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. And this episode here on a special Friday release of Everything is Awesome is wrapping up our FanExpo 2025 in Philadelphia coverage. I was part of 3 panels this year. You've listened to one of them. This is the second one, and the other one was more of a live recording of our Get 'Em Next Year podcast that I do, obviously, on Get 'Em Next Year. So I'm not going to air that on this feed, but this panel, Go Birds, because it's sports related, I feel like it's worth also throwing up on the Get 'Em Next Year feed. So I mean, it's going to be weird if you listen to both shows. You're going to hear this twice. If you don't, and you only listen to Get 'Em Next Year, then I'm talking to nobody right now, right? Anyway, it was this weekend. FanExpo weekend was it was a roller coaster weekend for me, if I'm being honest, and that's something I try to do here on Everything is Awesome. Is I'm usually very honest and open and vocal about the things that I do and that I'm part of and everything that's going on. And there are certainly some things I would have changed and had go differently for this FanExpo. And I, for the past 2 previous FanExpos, ran a community table, stepped away from doing that this year simply because I just feel like I wasn't getting the support from the community that table was for to help run that community. And so I stepped away from that because I wanted to engage with the con like I used to do as part of the media and as a moderator and panelist. And while I got to do that this year, there were certain things that happened that I'm not 100% happy with. That it's a learning lesson. Everything we do, win, succeed, fail, whatever, it's all a learning lesson. Kevin Smith says failure is success training. And I don't think anything about this FanExpo weekend was a failure by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, this was one of the best FanExpos I've had as a speaker, moderator, panelist. It was such a good weekend. And it actually reinvented me and re-energized me to come back to Everything is Awesome because this show, as you know, has been a roller coaster because of my mental health over the last couple years, and something that I was really thinking about is that while we started recording this show in 2015, like fall of 2015, we started releasing this show February 1st of 2016. And just a week before then, and I go into this story in episode 192 with Ben Beck, so forgive me for repeating myself if you've listened to this already, but 2 weeks or maybe even a week before we dropped the first episode of this podcast is when I found out my uncle was diagnosed with cancer. So this show has been with me basically through the entire lifespan of my trauma when it comes to cancer. And it's an odd feeling because prior to 2016, yes, I was related to the disease in a indirect way by knowing people that either were affected by it with family members or friends themselves. But never have me, obviously, or family or friends that I knew personally, did they have cancer. And it wasn't until 2016 when that happened with my uncle. And, we did this show through him being initially diagnosed, through him going into remission, through it coming back, and ultimately through him not being able to survive that second round of his battle. And then, also through my dad being diagnosed a year or two after my uncle passed. And, being diagnosed with stage 4 and him living with it for so many years. And, I know I haven't been doing the show on a regular basis, but, he passed away just a few months ago, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day of 2025. And so I've been in a weird spot. There just seems to be things that remind me of my uncle or my dad, and it's hard to do these things. And, because a lot of these things don't hold me accountable. Get Them Next Year does, because there are, 1, 2, 3 other people involved with that show at times. Anyway, doing FanExpo this weekend, despite the mixed emotions I have about the weekend, it overall was swimmingly positive and has re-energized me to come back to Everything Is Awesome, specifically because it is a show that I need. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to my uncle and my father by not doing it, because this is therapy for me. This helps me. And nothing could be truer of that statement than the panel that you're about to listen to that we did on Saturday evening, and I go into it in the panel. This is inspired by Jeff Stormer, friend of the show, past guest of the show, friend of me personally, obviously. And we had Craig from Comic Book Gurus, JJ from Get 'Em Next Year, and as I did 170 episodes ago, threw a Hail Mary to get Aaron McGathy on the show. I threw a Hail Mary to get Devan Caney on the show. And man, I have so much more to say about that maybe I'll save for the other end of this. But I'm so appreciative of everyone that was on this show, especially Devan Caney, who had could have easily ignored my email. But let's get to the panel here. Go Birds, live at FanExpo Philadelphia, right here on Everything Is Awesome, only on awesomepodcast.com.
Hello, FanExpo Philly. How's it going? 2 in a row today. I'm proud of you guys. Normally I do this and you're all quiet. Thank you. This is Go Birds, how a fandom united a city and beyond. We're going to talk a little Eagles, a little sports, a lot of other things that I think relate to how strong and passionate this fan base is, along with pop culture fandoms along the way. First, let's get some introductions out of the way. If you don't know me, you don't. One of the many plates I spin is I'm the host of a couple podcasts, Everything Is Awesome, Avatar State Radio, and Get 'Em Next Year, the heart and soul of Philly sports. Let's go to Craig.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for this intervention for Kevin. My name is Craig Legans. I am the co-host of Comic Book Gurus podcast, a podcast that's produced by WMMR and the Preston and Steve Show. You can also follow me on Instagram, X, and Threads, and in your local mini mart.
All right, next up, and man, this is the weird part, because you are going to go last, Mr. Math.
That's so weird.
So, next up, Devan Caney.
Hello. I'm doing my own introduction. Sorry. I am the sideline reporter for the Philadelphia Eagles on 94 WIP Philadelphia. I'm also a host on WIP and part of their morning show. And I am a sports anchor for Fox 29. And this is my first time here. I'm new and it's very overstimulating and exciting.
Shocker, the sports host is never been to a Comic-Con before.
Wow.
Last but certainly not least this is weird because it's one name, JJ.
What am I doing here? Hi, I'm JJ. I'm the host of Get 'Em Next Year with Kev. I don't know, I like to rant about hockey on the internet anonymously, and now I'm sitting next to these people. I have no idea what I'm doing here, but let's have some fun.
So, what I like to do is fill panels with a lot of people. One person that's like on par with me, and then people that like know a lot more than me. So that's what we're doing here. But before we get started, I have an icebreaker for you guys. We'll start JJ and make our way down. What's the weirdest place, or where's the weirdest place you've been told to go Birds?
March of this year, I was in Hellasandr, Iceland, and I was in a random bar I know, shocker, guys. And somebody came up. I had my Jalen Hurts jersey on, my favorite player, Jalen Hurts. And he just came up and gave me a Go Birds. Walked right away. Don't know if he was Icelandic, Belgian, English, Canadian. Hilarious. Just kind of looked and went, that's a thing. Moved on with my day.
This is one of those questions I feel like I'm going to think of a better answer to, because I feel like I've been told Go Birds and have exchanged Go Birds in so many places. Most recently, I was visiting friends in LA last summer and on a hike, like not Runyon Canyon, not a super popular hike. It was like off the beaten trail, and someone walked by us and we didn't even have, I think I might have had a Phillies hat on. I didn't even have Eagles stuff on because it was the summer. So, we go from Go Birds season to Go Phil's season, and they're just like, Go Birds! And we gave them a Go Birds back, and then we both went about our day. They were going up, we were going down. But it's always those moments that always make me smile. There are truly Eagles fans all over the world.
January 18th, right before our first Super Bowl run, in a bathroom in Bear, Delaware. I was leaving. I had done everything I needed to do in the bathroom, and I was leaving. I heard someone in a stall they were just making noise, and I didn't know it. So I'm leaving, and there's a crack. If you've ever been in the men's room, sometimes the door doesn't close all the way, and there's a little crack. So he could see me as I was leaving, and he goes, "My man." I said, "Yes. Do you have a mirror?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "All right, Go Birds."
You could hear a pin drop in this audience and up here while he was telling that story.
Yeah, there's a lot of different places that may have gone. Mine is more of a metaphorical Go Birds. Back during the early days, the early aughts, when we had McNabb on the team and we were doing really, really well, I traveled for work, so I had a gig in Dallas. So, of course, I dressed head to toe in Eagles gear. And walking around, I was like, let me go get my bags. I'll go get a coffee from Dunkin', go up to Dunkin', like an asshole. Sorry. And
You said I couldn't work blue.
And I walk up, and the guy's like, "You're an Eagles fan?" I'm like, yeah, buddy, what of it? And he's like, "You guys are doing really good this year." I'm like, one black coffee and I'll be on my way, thank you. So a perfect example how not to be a good Eagles fan, really, but it was weird getting that respect in Dallas, of all places. Online, they are the worst.
They act as if they just won the Super Bowl. Like with their week one matchup, it's like I see the Dallas comments and it's like, "Oh, we're gonna BTA," like what C.J. Gardner-Johnson and the Eagles were saying after they, I don't know, crushed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Right.
The Dallas Cowboys are saying that to Eagles fans as if they didn't just come off like a 2-15 season or whatever their record was. But their confidence level is insane.
My favorite post that's making the rounds on the internet is the year by year of Jalen Hurts being born to winning a championship in Philadelphia and what the Cowboys have done each one of those years, which is not good.
No.
Well, you have to understand, Dallas playing us, that's their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because they haven't won here in many, many years. So when the schedule makers came out, and they suck, by the way, because our schedule
That schedule's
is
ridiculous.
horrible. But they gave us a losing non-playoff team first because they want us to do well. So I tell Cowboys fans, that wasn't a reward to you. You were being sent to the slaughter because they want to see the Super Bowl champions make an example of another NFC East foe. But Cowboys fans are all up in arms. Oh my God, we got George Pickens. And keep in mind, a week before they got George Pickens, they were ready to jump out of a window because of how bad their team was. But now this one guy, this one malcontent, who hasn't done a damn thing since he's been in the league, he's going to be the one to elevate the Cowboys in the promised land, and they think it's going to happen on week one.
Not going to be the case.
Yeah, no, not at all. So, real quick, this panel was actually inspired by a friend of mine, Jeff Stormer, who is an award-winning podcaster right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He did some charity work for the Hurricane Relief Fund a couple months ago in November, and he said this on his social medias. Here's the thing: seeing a $500 donation from Go Birds on our hurricane relief fundraiser this weekend is the thing that will fully make me cry. I love my city, I love the people in it, I love my wife, my cat, and our friends, and seeing my goofy little tribute to those things, aggressively saying our team catchphrase during podcasts and streams, reflected back in real, tangible good done for people who need it. That's the good shit. Go Birds. So, and it is, I did not break down and cry reading that, but it really showed me that Go Birds is more than a dopey catchphrase. And thinking back to how we've been using it over the last few years, and how it's meant more, I think, than just a nod of the hat.
It's aloha in Hawaii. It means
It
hi,
is. It truly is. It's
goodbye.
hello, goodbye, what's up, how you doing?
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, like, we don't see that, I think, in any other teams, in Philly even, or outside. Like, you don't have Go Phils. Like, you have it, but it doesn't mean what Go Birds means. Why do you guys think that is?
Well, because the Eagles are champions and the other ones aren't. I mean, just off the top of my
Ain't
head.
that the truth, brother?
Yeah, that'll do it, yeah.
But in 2008, when the Phils won, I don't remember Go Phils having the meaning that Go Birds does.
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that this city has always been football first. The Eagles have always been the primary team. Please take that from the Flyers fan who desperately just wants people to talk about it in mainstream media.
Tell the Flyers to start winning, and maybe they will.
Oh my God!
It's so true.
But I will say, when they
She's
when-
not wrong.
In year 15 of what was supposed to be a
Hey, we
5-year
are 2
rebuild.
to 3 years away from being 2 to 3 years away.
But I will say that being in Philadelphia and growing up here, I'm older than everyone else here on the panel.
I don't know about that.
Combined. But when the Sixers were during the Iverson run, and during the times when Embiid was healthy, those 2-3 days when he was healthy, when we looked like we were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Remember, we got Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons, and we finally were going to fulfill the process, and then the damn ball bounced 8 times on the rim, and I know. But during that era, there was a palpable Sixers love for the city that I think eclipsed the Eagles because how we felt going into this past season with the Eagles, that's how a lot of Sixers fans felt that year, that was going to be our year, because there really wasn't any team that was better than us. So I think if the Sixers ever got back to it, I think they would eclipse the Eagles.
I think when a certain team, so the Phillies are probably the most recent example of, in 2022, both the Eagles and the Phillies were really good, and the Phils went to the World Series when no one expected it. But the last several postseasons, the Phillies have gone, I guess, less and less far. But I do feel like when the Phillies are in the postseason, I don't want to say eclipse the Eagles, because I don't think any team can eclipse the Eagles, because I think that the NFL in itself is just a juggernaut, and here in Philadelphia, we tie our identity to our sports teams, but especially the Philadelphia Eagles. And I also think a lot of that has to do with scheduling, right? Like, the Phillies play throughout the summer, they play every single day. Football is a once a week, 18-week, longer if you're lucky season, and we all wait for, the preseason games for the first public practice and then for the regular season to start. Like, we really plan our lives around football season and Eagles season. And I always think back to the most accurate description of Philadelphia that I've ever heard was now almost 10 years ago, which is crazy. I started my career as an assistant in Los Angeles in the entertainment business. And when I was interviewing with my first boss at William Morris Endeavor, it's a big talent agency, they're very blunt out there, but also the least honest people you'll ever meet. I don't know if you've ever been to LA or dealt with someone from LA, but yeah. And so coming from him, I say all that because keep that in mind. He's like, yeah, you're from Philly? Like, I went there once. I didn't like it very much. I was like, why? Okay. He's like, well, I thought it was cool, the history, but I felt like everyone was in a club that I wasn't invited to. And I still think about that today because I think it's very spot on with how Philadelphians are, and especially how Philly sports are, Philly sports fans, I should say. I think that we can be misrepresented and misunderstood. I don't think that we're mean. I think that we're very honest, brutally honest, and very protective of our own, right? And I think that that's where Go Birds comes from. It's like, are you a real one? You know, if I'm on a hiking trail in LA, like, oh, Go Birds? And then they say Go Birds back, you're like, okay, so you're one of us. Like, yeah, I can, you're a real one. And I think that that's just so extremely special and what makes Philadelphia, in my opinion, the best city in the world.
Hell yeah.
G-pop. It also helps that, what gives us that raw callous, we're in a club that no one else gets, is the constant disrespect that Philly gets, not just as a sports city, but just as a city as a whole.
Yeah.
Because if you realize when you look at like the weather patterns or natural disasters, it's like Boston, New York, Washington, D.C. It's like, weren't we somewhere in there? But the fact that we still get, looked down upon or just shunned, the Santa Claus through snowballs at Santa Claus story that's still going on.
Yeah.
And can I say, for the record, do you mind, Kevin?
Go ahead.
Indulge me, please, people still say that we threw snowballs at Santa Claus. My father was a security guard when it happened in 1960. Yeah, it was at Franklin Field. It wasn't at the vet. Okay, the original Santa who was supposed to be there, who was at the Santa for Gimbals, for Macy's, professional Santa, ace Santa. He couldn't make it because either he had the car trouble or he had pneumonia. Either way, he wasn't there. So the people that were running the halftime show for Santa Claus to come out, this was a December game, they grabbed a homeless, disheveled-looking drunk and threw him in a Santa Claus suit with a beard over it and threw him out to the crowd. Look, folks, that Santa looked so bad. If you remember this, that Santa made the Dan Aykroyd Santa in Trading Places look like Edmund Quinn in Miracle on 34th Street. So that's why the snowballs were being thrown, because there were kids there and they were promised Santa, and they shell out, Billy Bob Thornton from Bad Santa. So of course we're gonna throw snowballs. So now they're still bringing up almost 50 years later. Oh, see, you can't do anything in Philly. Remember, they threw snowballs at Santa.
It is wild how much hate Philly gets. And I remember when we beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I had a buddy living in Rhode Island, and he's like, oh, it's bad. But that didn't make national news. Like, no one knows how, they were rioting. They were flipping cars. They were doing everything that we're blamed for. And I'm like, oh, really? And he's like, I swear to God, I'm like, how is this not in the news? And it is weird that we do one little thing like climb a pole and it's national news.
Did you see New York last night? Or was it last night? A couple nights ago after the Knicks won? People are climbing poles in Times Square.
Second round.
Well, look, we can't talk here because the Sixers are... True. We are champions, just not in the basketball sense.
JJ, did you give your answer to this question?
What was the question?
Oh, that's a great idea. Let's just move on. Go Birds has been around, like we said, forever. When was it that it became that powerful? To me, it felt like right around... I noticed it in 2022 when, how dare you for forgetting the Philadelphia Union also being in their
Soccer's not a real sport. You all heard me. Soccer's not a real sport.
But we were having, the Phillies, the Eagles, the Union, all our teams were so good that year. Mm-hmm. And going to Wawa in the morning and getting a coffee wearing my Eagles gear and getting Go Birds, it didn't matter if we liked each other or hated each other. That was the first year that I noticed it.
Help me out. When did It's Always Sunny debut? And I wonder if there's something to be tied in there with that show's very popular.
Right.
Obviously, you've got, 2 Philadelphians out of the 4 on the cast?
That came out in 2009.
Right, a little before that, but right around there?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that as my answer. I think
that's when Go Birds held meaning.
That's when it became part of the zeitgeist.
That's actually really interesting. Okay. Yeah, I just never. Obviously, I love It's Always Sunny, but I'm not. I haven't watched it from day one. Every single episode.
I have.
But yeah, I guess it would kind of add to the national.
Kind of took a hold of it at that point. Yeah.
Huh. I like that.
What about for you, Craig?
I just think it was organic. You know, we've always loved our Eagles, and even when they were, you know, really good during the Donovan McNabb years, I don't remember there being a significant Go Birds thing. I think it came about probably, from what JJ said, because Rob McElhenney's Go Birds is a
Iconic.
it's a GIF now, and
It's literally the logo for this panel.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Didn't you read the banner, JJ?
No.
You know, Philadelphia teams in general, and I think Eagles in particular, travel real well. We're going to let JJ give the math answer about away games and home games and stuff. But beyond that, like, you don't just see that us travel to these games away. You go to London and there's Phillies bars. Passyunk Ave is fantastic.
Not just that, there's multiple Passyunk apps.
Yes. I had to figure out which one was closest to me.
Yeah. I went to London to watch the Phillies play, and even just that, like London is a massive, massive city. Yeah. And you would think that like half of Philadelphia transported to London for that series. Like there were Phillies jerseys and also Eagles shirts, hats, everywhere. Like, talk about saying Go Birds in random places. Like, just walking around Trafalgar Square, you're like, oh, hey, Go Birds. Hey, Go Birds. Hey, I know you. You're from Philly. So we really do travel well. It's amazing. You can give I don't know if you want him to give the boring math answer now.
Let's get the math answer out of the way.
Okay, the math answer is, what's it cost to go to an average Eagles game nowadays? $250, $300?
Yep.
If not more. I'm talking about just get in the door prices. So with driving down, paying for parking, and getting like club level seats, you can go to a game against what's their name now? The Commies? Something like that. You can go down there for less than that. So I think that has something to do with it. I appreciate that you know, it's the math answer, but I've literally done away game trips with large groups. I mean, there's a couple of guys in the front here that have come with me for, we've been doing that for 10 years now. Buffalo, we did New Orleans one year. Kansas City. One, it's fun, but two, math-wise, it's kind of, you know, $100 ticket for a really good seat versus $300 for standing room.
Well, and to add to that, that wasn't as boring and mathematical as I thought it would be, by the way.
JJ makes math fun.
There's now entire businesses based on
100%.
sending Philly sports fans to away games, both for Eagles, for Phillies. I don't know if they exist for Flyers or Sixers yet, but maybe
they
once
do.
they get good.
It's very inexpensive.
I don't know.
There's also Union, I'm sure.
Yeah, but you get my point. But I also think, like, just to that original point, we talk about, you know, how expensive it is to go to an Eagles game. Even I'm going to the Phillies as a fan tomorrow, and my tickets were a lot more expensive than I was expecting, and that's because the demand is always so high, because Philly fans are always going to show up.
That's
like,
such a good point.
Rain or shine, snow, heat, like, we are going to be there, so there's never going to be a lack of demand, and that's why these prices are always so high for watching our teams within our own city.
Is that a badge of honor unto itself? We have the highest ticket prices.
Sure.
I guess. I wish we didn't have that badge, but
It'd be cool if they were cheaper, but
Fair enough.
We talked about this on the podcast the one day with standing room only tickets to the Phillies games. Like, Phillies game, baseball to me should be the one sport that, like, everybody should be able to get into. And some people can't, even with standing room. Like, standing room can get up to like $30-$40 a ticket.
you used to be able, Phillies, I mean, talk about popularity in Philly sports. I think 2022 for the Phillies was where it really changed.
Yeah.
Of course, you have 2008, but then there was that lull after like 2011 and between 2022 where, like, I would go for, my friend and I would go and just, like, not even pay attention to the game and just drink beers. And we were like the only people in our section. And now you can barely get into a game because every single game is sold out. It's crazy. It's a good thing because they're, you know, a better team. But I agree. I do think baseball could be a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, even if it's standing room only. Going back to, like, even watching it on TV, I had to upgrade a TV package to watch it. I'm like, what is going on? I should be able to watch playoff baseball anywhere, and I can't. Do you guys have an answer as to why they travel well outside of away games? Like, why, like, there's such a big, I think London is a perfect example. Like, outside of the London series, there are multiple Passyunk apps. Like, why do we travel well almost on a, like, permanently?
I'll go first on this one. I think it's because we are one of a kind, truly, and like obviously I'm biased because I am a Philly sports fan, but I think like we're also very proud, not necessarily in an arrogant sense, but in, like I mentioned earlier, like if we are, like when you're one of us, you're one of us. If you're against us, you're against us. And we like to bring that sense of, you know, security and identity with us to support our teams, but also to kind of say like, look, we can do this in a city like London. We can do this in a city like LA. Like, you don't scare us, you don't intimidate us. We're just gonna bring Philadelphia to you. I don't know. I feel like I'm not really wording that the right way, but I think it's just bringing that identity outside of Philadelphia
Yeah, it makes
as a
sense.
point of pride.
I understood. No, I was going to say, I think it started organically, because I think when we were play close teams, when we would go to New York, you know, that became a thing. And then it said, well, why don't we just go to Washington? And that became a thing. And I think it was just those two that started it, and we became really good, and they just continued to be really bad. So why don't we take this to Dallas? Or hey, why don't we go to LA? Because I remember a Chargers game, I think it was 2 years ago, when it was so loud. We were playing this, I think it was the last time we played the Chargers, our Super Bowl year, 2017. It was so loud playing the Chargers that the announcers even claimed that it felt like a home game. That they Garrett Blunt broke one for 60 yards, and the place went nuts. And this is in LA, in the Chargers, before they got their new stadium. So I think that was the impetus where it started.
Right.
And I think since then we're the best well-traveled team in sports.
I was just going to say, playing off of what Devan said, I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that, you know, we're right next to New York City. And we've got these cities like London, and LA is a good example too, Craig. Mm-hmm. I feel like sometimes this city gets passed over on a national level or an international level.
Yes.
And this is a major city. And I think maybe we kind of have that mentality of, hey, don't forget about us, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
perfect sense.
Because there is a unique Philadelphian identity. I mean, just look at the lexicon. I mean, you leave the greater Philadelphia area and the collar counties, nobody knows what water is.
No.
Wawa can be used as a noun, a verb, a pronoun. Like, there's a lot of, I mean, we have the word John, for God's sakes.
Damn it.
It's a good word. You can use it for everything.
Cool
It
word.
truly can be used
It
for
is a good
everything.
word.
I once saw someone, or heard someone say that John over there with the John in that John, and just went, the weird thing is I knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah. So, kind of relating this to fandoms in general, because all sports is, and especially here in Philly, is just one big fandom. Whether it's like our Marvel, we've seen some of the memes where the Thanos glove with collecting all the NFC East wins and stuff. With the internet, in fandoms in general, has that made things better or worse, you think, for fandoms?
It's enabled us to finally stick it to Cowboys fans that we've never met. It used to be, we used to have to wait till they actually showed their face at the link to tell them how much they suck. Now we can do it every day, any second of any hour. And yes, and it's us versus everyone. So that's what the internet has done. And also, because we are the Super Bowl champions, and when you are the greatest football team on God's green earth, everyone's going to come after you. And because what the social media has done for us, Eagles fans, gives us the pleasure of rubbing it in anyone's face that tries to give us any crap about who we are and how good we are. They try to downplay our quarterback, they try to downplay our city, but the internet, it gives us all the ammunition we need to fight back.
I'll also say, I still call it Twitter. Calling it X
Yup.
is weird.
No,
but
it's not X.
100%.
I will never call it X. X is not a thing. It's not a
Correct.
regular thing.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't want to sound like I'm not promoting it, but like I feel like I'm still active on that site because like I have to be for work. But Philly sports Twitter, like I met my boyfriend through Philly sports Twitter, and it is such a community, and I think more so than any other, sports or like community on that app. people will have made best friends through Philly sports Twitter. There's a group that goes out and holds these elaborate tailgates for every Eagles game and big Phillies games, and they make like crazy meats. The guy is like a chef on the side, and they all hang out together. And I think that like I genuinely don't know another place where that happens, where people don't know each other, they're complete strangers, and there's this community where like even if you're going by yourself, they're welcoming. They're like, yeah, no, come on, MLOT, you know, we're gonna be here at this time, and you'll go and they'll give you food and drink, and all of a sudden you're hanging out with them and you have this group of friends, and it's amazing. And even if you're watching at home, like if I'm watching a Phillies game at home tonight, I know that I can post something and I feel like I'm watching with 50 of my best friends because everyone's watching the same thing, and it really is a true sense of community, and I love that.
Me too.
Kind of stole my thunder there, Devan.
Sorry.
I will just say, one, Get 'em Next Year, not a political podcast. Sorry about that. And two, I also think that teams themselves are now dedicating resources to social media and the internet. Has everybody seen this time of year, every NFL team does a schedule release video? Yeah. Some were good, some had to be taken off the internet. Has everybody seen the Eagles? Yeah. I'm going to curse, Kev. If there is not a better example of flopping it on the table and just saying, haha, that video is a masterclass. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. It's literally the Philadelphia Orchestra while they have close-up shots of the Lombardi Trophy for 2 minutes, and then they flash the schedule. It's
They flash the schedule for like 5 seconds.
It's this big, and it's literally just an opus to come and take it.
That's fantastic.
Genius.
So my thought with the internet and sports, I feel like has always felt like a community, even before the internet. Where the internet, in good or bad ways, has really expanded things in fandom. I think it connects us to sports fans across the world that may moved away from Philly or whatever. But like as a huge Kevin Smith fan, 25 years ago, like where were my people, right? As a Star Wars fan in high school, where were my people? When Force Awakens came out, there was this commercial where a kid built an R2-D2, drove it to this girl's house, and it presented tickets to see the movie. I would have been shoved in a locker back then. So
Is that the reason you would have been shoved in a locker?
One of many.
Okay.
So it's wild to see how the internet has really made all these things, you know, it's weird to say okay, but like people are more open about their fandom and their nerdom than they used to be.
For sure. I was just to that point, even sports aside, like I was just telling you guys before we came in here, like I know I probably don't look like a nerd, but I was at a bachelorette party last weekend where we all dressed up in cosplay as our favorite book characters and like posted videos and photos, and I don't care. And it's kind of almost like cool to be a nerd now because of like everything that you just said. Yeah, and I love that.
It is. And now within that, there are like negative things. Like, not that I was a huge part of the Once Upon a Time fandom, the show on ABC. I loved the first couple seasons.
That's a deep
cut. I did a podcast. I knew people out west that did parodies of it. We did a lot of work together. Anyway, and I made like one simple like joke about, and if you guys know what Swan Queen is, okay. So I made a simple joke about it, and then got ripped on the internet because like I suddenly didn't support like a potential lesbian relationship. I'm like, guys, this was a joke. Like remember, I'm a comedy guy, so there are those moments of like negativity that still come out. But I think for the most part, it is a overall positive experience that the internet has given, you know, nerds and even sports people, you know, because at the end of the day, all you sports people are also nerds. You care about numbers and shit in your stats.
I'm never gonna shake this reputation.
Well, Jerry Seinfeld said that you know, if your favorite player gets traded to another team, you must now hate them. So you're just booing laundry. It's the same guy on both teams, but
That's a good point.
Wears a different shirt, so now he he's the enemy.
Well, that's an interesting point, because how do you feel about players that go to other teams? Like, do you still support? Like, I used to be a huge Peyton Manning fan when he played. Peyton Manning.
Don't know who he is.
He was, well, fantasy football made me a big fan of him because he always scored me the points. And when I followed him from Indy to Denver, like, I followed him around. So when you're looking at Eagles specifically, when they, let's say, outside of the NFC East, right? Because that's a no-brainer. But if they go outside of the NFC East, do you still follow them? Do you still support them? What's your gauge on that?
Well, there's two different things. There's two different types of fans when it comes to the Eagles, especially the Eagles that have become part of, the city. I was a Randall Cunningham guy, and he was, the ultimate weapon. His cover of Sports Illustrated, I hung it on my wall. He was like the national, he was our first big celebrity quarterback that not just Eagles fans knew, that like the rest of the country knew. And we couldn't get it done because of our coach, Buddy Ryan, who's obviously revered here because he beat the Cowboys, but keep in mind he never won a single playoff game as an Eagle. So, but my love for Randall Cunningham always went on, and when he went to the Vikings and came that close to going to a Super Bowl with a 15-1 team, I was heartbroken, more so than I would be had he stayed with the Eagles. But when Randall Cunningham became a Dallas Cowboy, that's when everything changed. Now, Brian Dawkins, who is still a god here in Philly, but when he went to Denver, we wished him well. We were mad at the owners. Same thing when Reggie White left.
Depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, we were mad at Norman Brayman. We wanted Reggie to go get his ring with Green Bay. We wanted Brian to go win his ring with, what's the quarterback's name that played for the Broncos? Whoever it was. But we still love Brian Dawkins. It's only like, and when T.O. became a Cowboy, the hatred for T.O. started here when he sabotaged what could have been another Super Bowl season. So he went to Cowboys. He was easy to hate. Yeah. It's the ones that we really, it really came to focus this past year when a lot of my Giants fans had to deal with Saquon Barkley coming here. And the same Giant fans that were telling me how he was washed and how he was going to be injured in week 3 and he doesn't have any left, and week 7 he's going to be hurt. Okay, well, week 11 he's going to be hurt, and then he didn't get hurt, and he had the single greatest season in any running back's ever had. They have to come to grips with how much they loved Saquon but hated the fact that he left. So it depends. Well, what Devan said depends on the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, another example is LaShawn McCoy. We loved him here, and he loved being here. He still loves the Eagles. He's from Pennsylvania, and Chip Kelly, of course, did a lot of things that we didn't love. But so yeah, I think it depends on the circumstances. Like someone who I don't hate and I respect for what he did here, but now probably not my favorite. I'm not going to say he's my enemy. Zach Ertz. So Zach Ertz, I know example. That he. And I was actually talking about this on air with one of my co-hosts on WIP earlier this week, because I feel like Zach Ertz gets so much, and it's almost similar to the Andy Reid situation, but I'll just talk about Zach Ertz for now, where he's revered here and we love him, and he was such an integral part of that 2018 Super Bowl team. People don't remember Zach Ertz. I mean, I don't know if he asked out per se, but I remember when he went to the Cardinals, it was like the Eagles were not doing well, and the narrative was like, well, he deserves to go to a winning team. Like he deserves better than what we're giving him here. And he went, and guess what? The Cardinals stunk. Yeah. So now he's with the Commanders and doing well, and he cried like a baby after the Eagles whooped them in the NFC Championship game, and I personally love to see it.
55-23.
Can I talk about hockey now?
No.
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 Sorry,
No.
the Stars said no.
Eric Lindros?
I'll give you, yeah.
Eric Lindros
You can
was
talk
my,
about hockey.
Eric Lindros was my favorite player. Mm-hmm. Probably still top 5 all time, but when he left, gutted. And that is one example. But I still was rooting for him in Toronto, maybe not so much New York. But
yeah, for me, the example is actually Andy Reid. Like, not a player, but I respected him and still respect him so much for everything he did for this city and for this football team. To the point where, unless it was against the Eagles, like 100% I'm rooting for you in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the two that we had against them, I didn't. But to the point where, like, when they won a Super Bowl, I bought the Kansas City hat because it was, no, I support my I do. Not when they beat the Eagles. Not when they beat the Eagles, but when they beat.
It still doesn't. I don't
It just
like
hangs there with on my wall of stuff. But yeah, Andy Reid was the one that I still will continue to wish him the best, even though I think we're all a little over Kansas City at this point.
Yeah. He's got his rings now, so we can start winning ours. He's already
absolutely. That's a great point.
Thank you.
That's a great point. Did you have? You keep looking at me. Do you have something to say?
No, where else am I going to look?
I'm waiting to talk about hockey.
Mega Ran's still there? Shout out to Mega Ran.
Nah, he left. So, we touched on outside of sports a little bit. Do you guys have like a specific fandom outside of sports that really kind of feels like that Go Birds mentality? Like the fandom that's part of it is, it's almost a religious experience. Like it's so close. I'll go first, like so you guys can think. For me, it's Kevin Smith. Spoilers. Like, if you guys are Kevin Smith fans, Clerks, Dogma, whatever, anytime you go to one of his live events, it's literally like it's like you're in a room full of Eagles fans. Like, you're there, you're cheering for, the greatest hits that they're playing on the screen if you're watching a movie, or if he's doing just a Q&A, anything that he says, it's like you're there to support him in the same way that I sit and watch games with my buddies and support the Eagles.
Taylor Swift. And I think like that, at least for me, I'm not a Swiftie in that I'm going to come after you on the internet. Like, I just experienced that reverse, and I'm like, I love Taylor Swift. Like, et tu Brutus. Like, they were attacking me because I was like, oh, Taylor Swift is in Philadelphia. Like, bold of Travis Kelce to be in Philly after the Super Bowl. That's all I said, and like the Swifties were out in full force.
Harmless and innocuous.
Thank you. I don't know if you're being sarcastic.
No, I'm not. You got attacked. I'm not a social media guy. You got attacked for that?
I deleted it because the Swifties came out.
Wow.
They came for me, and I
That's
was like, I'm one of
ridiculous.
you, but like not like that. So yeah, Taylor Swift, especially when she was on her Eras tour, like she's around my age. My friends and I, grew up listening to her, and I think that especially with the Eras tour, like that kind of wrapped up all of her discography up until that tour wrapped up recently. And that was truly like the closest thing to the Go Birds mentality, where it was like, you don't know, because especially now she's kind of a polarizing figure. Some people are like, oh, you like Taylor Swift, gross. Like, she makes teeny bopper music or whatever the insult is. Or it's like, oh, what's your favorite album? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite era? What do you wear to the Eras tour? You're exchanging friendship bracelets, and I think that that's really special. But that being said, I don't think that anything can really come close to that Go Birds mentality.
No, absolutely. I think you can get close, but can't get there.
Yeah.
Craig?
I run a comic book podcast. I do a comic book podcast, and I run our Comic Book Gurus Facebook page. And I can say without any shadow of a doubt that comic book fans are just as passionate. I'm using the word passionate because that, single-mindedness about their characters, about who they like and who they don't like. I'm a comic book fan, so I read in the comic books when Sam Wilson became Captain America, and it even trended on Twitter back then when it happened in 2008, folks, not my Captain America. And I said, wow, okay, that's something that we have to deal with as a country. Cut to earlier this year when Brave New World came out, and you get a whole other people who never read a comic book in their lives saying, well, that's not my Captain America. I didn't sign up for that. I want my heroes to look like this, and they have to be like that. And running a comic book site, dealing with comic book fans that like things a certain way and don't like when heroes are turned into women playing male characters, or someone of a different race playing the same hero. Oh my goodness, trying to get it all together. It's like I'm having a separate conversation with a Cowboys fan with why they think they're really good when they're really not. And it just runs really, really deep. It's like you can't, and forget trying to change anyone's mind. They're already set, and you can't even argue. It's just their single-minded goal, focus on their favorite characters and stuff that's made up. None of this is real, folks. There is no Captain America, so it really doesn't matter what color.
What?
Yeah. Don't get me started on The Little Mermaid either. That's not real either, folks. For those of you who didn't know, you, sir, it's not real. No, it's not real. He just walked out. So, yes, it's not real. It's not happening. Yeah, so that's the closest thing I can to an Eagles fan base is comic book fans.
JJ, you, and then we'll kind of give our plugs and wrap it up because I think someone else is done here.
I will be very short and sweet then because those were great answers. I don't do a lot of stuff outside of just watching hockey and obviously, the Eagles. I love Wes Anderson movies. Like, I don't go to the movie theater. I don't go to a movie theater anymore. Like, I think after COVID, that's just one thing that kind of changed. And it's something where I'm not itching to go to a movie theater. Wes Anderson has a movie out, I'll go to a theater. That's probably the closest I'm going to get.
All right. Well, JJ, let people know where they can find you on the internet since you're not a social media guy.
Do you really want to find me on the internet? Get'emNextYear.com. And new podcasts every Thursday. Irregularly on Monday, we'll have special episodes. If after every Eagles game, we'll have a show on Mondays, if I can convince Kev to edit it in time. Spoilers. That's basically it. I'm kind of a recluse.
Devan?
You can follow me on Twitter at Devan_Caney. It's Devan. Instagram, just my name also at Devan Caney. That's pretty much where I'm most active. Oh, and TikTok, also just my name.
What's your TikTok trend? Do you do the TikTok trends?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. No, I just post like weird, embarrassing, funny content on TikTok. I don't know. I love that everyone always says that. They're like, do you do like the dances? And they always like do a little like thing, like a little, I don't know.
This is why I don't
I'm
do
proud to say
social
I've
media.
never done a TikTok dance in my life. No one
Yeah.
needs
Me
to see that.
neither.
Yet.
That's a lie.
Craig?
I want to plug I'm a Comic Book Gurus podcast. We're doing our podcast live tomorrow at Theater 4, room 125, so please come out and see. My buddy Sean was just here, and you can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comic Book Gurus. He wanted to know why we hate Dallas or how deep the hatred goes. I want to tell this quick story. I'm sorry, Kevin. But he doesn't believe how deep the hatred goes. I was at the game where Michael Irvin of the Dallas Cowboys had his final game. His head fell on the concrete. That's what they played on. And he was carted off on a stretcher. And the fans cheered. And I just want to know, and I wanted him to know, yes, we cheered, but we didn't know he was hurt. We didn't know he was going to. We cheered, but we didn't know he was hurt. We thought he was dead. That's how deep it goes.
Oh, that's good. And I'm Kevin Gallagher. You can find me on the internet at That Nerdy Kev, pretty much everywhere. That's how you find out what I do. Speaking of things to do tomorrow, you can also find right before Craig's live podcast, the Get 'Em Next Year podcast, live at 1:15 in the workshops room, which is around the corner somewhere.
They're going to give me another live microphone?
And you're in charge.
Oh, God.
And you're in charge. So thank you all for coming out. I hope you have a great rest of your FanExpo. And, of course, go Birds!
Go Birds!
FanExpo 2025 Philadelphia is over. It's been over for a week, but now on Everything is Awesome, it's also over. What a weekend, man. Like I said, there are things I would change. At the end of the day, I feel like there were moments of this weekend that I felt like weren't my own. And that's one thing I wanted to change. It's one of the reasons why I don't run the community table anymore, is because I wanted to engage with the con and engage with it on my terms. And I feel like part of that, not all of it, but part of my weekend was taken away from that. there's parts of the panel that I ran, specifically this panel, that I feel like weren't 100% what I wanted. I got to change that. This is all learning lesson this weekend. But despite the negatives that I had associated with this weekend, and I'll be honest, I mean, I woke up Saturday morning, the day of this panel, like super not happy, super unhappy, like borderline wanting to cancel the panels because I was so unhappy. And, I pushed through it because it was unfair to me, unfair to my panelists, but ultimately unfair to FanExpo and the attendees who were looking forward to these panels. So I'm glad I didn't let that part of my brain win. I'm glad I pushed past that because, again, ultimately, this weekend meant a lot to me for a couple of reasons. Just the weekend in general reminded me of the fun that I have doing this stuff. And I think what a lot of podcasts, especially brand new podcasts, get caught up in is finding ways to try to make money, trying ways to, it is a business. There is a business side to this. And yes, I get it. Like whether you're spending time or actual money to put together stuff, like all that stuff has a value and you want to be recouped in some way. But having done podcasting now since 2007, going on that's 18 years, almost 17 and a half years, like there is not a lot of money in podcasting. You don't do podcasting for money, in my opinion. And very few people can hit that mark to where they are, selling to another company for millions of dollars. If that happens, great, but that should never be the goal on the onset. It should be because you want to have fun and you want to sit around with your friends and have fun. And the nice thing about Everything is Awesome is that I get to sit around with new people every week and have fun, or I get to sit around with a couple people and do these panels and have fun. Despite when they don't feel 100% your own, because things happen. It's still a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun this weekend, and it re-energized me to come back to Everything is Awesome. I alluded to this, I think, in the beginning of the show before we aired the panel. But Devan Caney, and I'm shouting her out specifically over the other panelists, simply because I've worked with the other guys. I've worked with Craig. I've worked with JJ. I've worked with Dan. I've worked with I Like to Movie. So for someone who out of the blue sends an email, hey, do you want to do this? And obviously, I mean, she ran a 5K, I believe, for the Eagles autism event before she came and did our panel. And I'm sure she knew that they were the same day before she agreed to do the panel. And someone very busy compared, I won't speak for Craig and JJ, but compared to myself, extremely busy compared to me. She's part of the WIP morning show. She does other things for WIP, like sideline reporter for the Philadelphia Eagles for WIP. She works with Fox 29. So a very busy person that could very easily ignore an email from a internet person who emailed her out of the blue, out of nowhere, an internet stranger. And what she reminded me of was taking the shot, or throwing the Hail Mary, if you want to put it in football terms. But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I've been taking fewer and fewer shots over the last few years because I got scared of getting the no's. And Ben and I talked about this a few episodes ago, where you shouldn't take these no's to heart. They are not no's forever. They are no's for right now. And it's up to you to get better and to be more consistent and to do these things to turn that no into a yes. But it really took someone accepting that shot to catch that Hail Mary, like Devan Caney did. And it took that to remind me of why you take the shots. Because for every shot that you take, there might be 100 misses. But then there's that one that makes it. And I don't know, man. It's just, it was a reminder. It was a big reminder. And FanExpo and Devan Caney remind me of why I do these things. And I'll be honest with you, the podcast, I've been podcasting over the last few months. It may not have been with Everything Is Awesome, but a lot of the podcasting I've been doing lately has felt like work. And podcasting, in my opinion, can never, ever, ever feel like work, because then you're so not interested in it. Because podcasting is not a medium that you make money in. You can't manufacture money through blogging, through merchandise. You cannot do that. You have to just put the work in and have fun doing it. Have fun with your friends. And that's what I love about Everything Is Awesome. I get to talk to new people every week. Okay, I've gone on and on and on. I apologize for that. I just wanted to, I don't know, I'm feeling pretty impassioned right now about things. But yes, thank you to JJ. Thank you to Craig, and thank you to Devan for being on Go Birds. Make sure you check out all their stuff that they have going on. Get them next year. The podcast that JJ and I do. Obviously Devan with all her stuff with WIP and Fox 29, and all their socials, if they have them, will be in the show notes. Craig, pay attention to him and Comic Book Gurus. I think their show is mainly on YouTube, but they gave all their plugs at the end of the panel. We'll have some stuff in the show notes. Thank you guys for being part of this. The Go Birds panel meant a lot to me because of where it came from, and that was Jeff Stormer, and because of how it was inspired. I do feel like I let this panel go a little bit. It didn't feel 100% my own this time. Going forward, that will be changing. This is the first panel that I plan on taking out to multiple cons and having it represented multiple years, because there is something about it that I think means a lot. And maybe that's because I'm from Philly and I'm an Eagles fan, and Go Birds does mean something to me. But I think there's a lot more to it than we got to discuss on this panel. And I think there's a lot more fun that can be had on this panel that I promise I will not back away from like I did this time. That being said, thank you all for listening. Thank you again to JJ, Craig, and Devan. Thank you to Dan and the I Like to Movie crew. And thank you to FanExpo Philadelphia for allowing me to do this stuff. It was such a fun time. We're going to be back to our regular schedule next week, just once a week on Mondays. I believe the next episode is with Mike from the Doom Thugs podcast. And we got a couple stuff in the can that will take us through the end of the summer. And then in the summer, we're going to be airing a bunch of stuff that has not aired before. But we'll get more into that closer to when it's time to, because we're approaching episode 200. I got a plan for that. And then right immediately after episode 200, episode 201 is our annual podcasting anniversary, where we celebrate me podcasting this year for 18 years on July 1st. So stay tuned for all that, and we'll see you next time right here on Everything Is Awesome, only on awesomepodcast.com.